All right, can I cut in just for a second? I just want to make sure because we got a lot of engagement on this episode, a lot of folks watching. Um, from Ryan and Nicholas, do we have any questions that we need to attend to?
I'll go first. I've been checking in with the comment section the entire time, engaging with the people, and there hasn't been necessarily any questions, but it's been a ton of people. And when you see these comments and they've laid out their personal stories,
Mm-hmm.
that type of like issues that you're speaking on, they're far too many of them the same for comfort, and you can tell that there's a lot of pain and like and just unchanneled, just anger because you don't know how to really fix these layers upon layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of issues that just aren't getting anywhere. And we cognitively know these issues, but there's just no change being done. So I guess my question on behalf of everybody that is having these type of like this issues and just unfortunate things happening to their families and loved ones is like, what could we do as people? Because systemically speaking, nothing is going to change. You can't just get rid of a whole system or anything. But what can we as a society, as civilians, can do to like get this like information out there more? Like, do we need to implement? I feel like we might need to implement more educational things in school about the judicial system. Like how we always like advocate how we need to understand economics. We need to understand that, regular people like me and everybody else in this group chat, we don't know about the judges, or even if they are up for election, we're not aware of them, or we don't know enough information about them. We don't understand the economics of like Black people when it deals with public defenders and how poorly they will publicly try to defend like Black people, like because of the disparity of Black people as compared to a white person. Like we don't know these things. And so it's just like, what can we like do to like just get the information out there or make subsequent change on our end?
Well, let me tell you what I see in legislatures, because our legislatures have the power to change all of this. And those are the people in our House of Delegates and in our state Senate. And we see a remarkable disconnect between the pain that these things are causing and the injustice of all of the things that Amy has talked about, and what legislators, even legislators of color, are doing. There's this massive disconnect in the information that programs like yours, Amy, are gathering in the data, and what legislators, Black legislators, know. And there is no continuity year in and year out that builds up the knowledge of, say, the Maryland Black Caucus, and an item list of all of the things that need to be addressed. And so that should be the easiest part of reform. And that is to systematically communicate all of these issues to our legislators so that we can item for item every year address them. That's not happening. And then in the southern states, we see this massive problem with gerrymandering, because the red states are all controlled by Republican majority legislators, even in states where Republicans are not a majority. And it's almost impossible to get them to move towards addressing any of these issues. But where there is a chance to address it, it's not being addressed effectively. So what do we do about that, Amy?
Well, people are doing something about it, and I share the audience's frustration with the many issues that we got to change in this country. But please don't despair, because people are acting up and they are acting out, and where we're seeing a lot of change happening, it is in the communities where directly impacted people, folks who have been incarcerated, folks who have family members who have been incarcerated, are organizing. And they're going to their city councils, they're going to their state legislatures, and they're getting change to happen. So where I live in Washington, D.C., we recently passed two very, very important laws last year. One of those laws gave the franchise back to anybody who is in a prison. So in DC, like in Maine and Vermont, people are no longer disenfranchised because they're sitting in prison. And that was a direct result of people in the community organizing and demanding the vote for their sisters and brothers who are on the inside. It wouldn't have happened without that community dedication. At the same time, and that same year, some of the similar advocates, again, people from the community, people who were directly impacted, moms, dads, sisters, brothers, organized to get a second look bill passed in DC. And what that second look bill does is it says anybody who committed their crime 24 years or younger gets a second look and an opportunity to go back before a judge when they're serving a long sentence to get released. And so, we did that actually. This is a continuation of a law. The first law was passed for people who were under the age of 18. And as a result, hundreds of people came back to DC and came back to their families. That was wildly successful. And then the organizers and the community said, it's not enough to just bring people back who committed a crime when they were 16 or 17 years old. We need to give a second chance to people who are 24 years and younger, because we know young people do dumb things, right? We all been there. And so they got that law passed, and now we know that hundreds of people are going to be able to come home as a result. They're going to be able to leave prison and come home and return to their families. And that's a direct result of people on the ground demanding that their representatives change the criminal laws.
Well, I want to get a little bit more specific. We only have a few minutes left, and this has been a remarkably comprehensive discussion that you stimulated, Amy.
Thank you.
When can we get cheat sheets? Meaning a list of all of the issues we've discussed, a short summary of both the statistical analysis and the reasons why they ought to be changed, and a model legislative provision concerning that one issue that we can give to our legislators and say, we want you to pass this, and here's why. In other words, we'd like to get a model legislative reform package about all of these issues so that I can hand it to the Black Caucus and say, hey, here's who you need to talk to about this one. Here's who you need to talk to about this one. Here's the statistics for this one, and make it easy. Make it easy, because, as a person who works with the legislature every year, I see a re-education that has to happen every year.
Yeah.
And there is no institutional commitment in the legislature to change these things. Look, Maryland's a good example. We have over 40 Black legislators out of 144 total. We ought to be dominating the discussion. But what we see is ineptitude, lack of information, a lack of model legislation every year. I mean, why should I be the one suggesting model legislation when we have somebody like you and yours who can actually write the model legislation and make it easy for our legislators to have the correct language in these bills, the correct topic list in these bills, the correct backup for why we need these things, instead of us on the local level ad hoc trying to scramble to get this information into legislative hands. Likewise with the judiciary, we need a list of the reforms. And judges ought to institute institutionally to stop mass incarceration.
And whatever that looks like at the federal level, we need to model that for the states, so we can put something like that in the hands of regular people so they can begin their advocacy efforts in the communities that they live in.
Because, Amy, it sounds like we talk to each other more than we talk to the people who can actually create the change.
Uh-huh.
Well, that is often a problem of folks who are working at the national level. But I do want to point people towards our website, which has a lot of this data, the Sentencing Project. If you state by state data, national data, it is on our website. And also, we do work with state and local partners around the country, and we have suggestions. If you're interested in passing a bill that gets people home or make sure that not so many people go to prison in the first place, please do contact us. We got a lot of ideas and suggestions for you. Every community is a little bit different, and it's important for folks at the community level to be the leaders. But we're there to support you in whatever way is best for you.
Well, I'm humbly suggesting, vociferously urging, strongly pushing for model legislation. And it can easily more easily should come from people like you and your organization than from people who are starting from scratch.
Right.
Oh, of course. And there are a lot of good ideas out there that have already been tried. Some have passed. So Billy, we've got some suggestions for you, some models that we can share.
Okay. All right, good. I'm looking forward to it. And again, ladies and gentlemen out in the audience, you've been listening to Amy Fettig, who is the executive director of the Sentencing Project, one of the most influential, highly competent, very, very serious organizations studying these problems. And I hope that you have gotten a lot out of today's discussion. The more I talk to people like Amy, the more I learn how ignorant I am about how bad it is. I mean, if you've listened to this show and you are not emotionally affected, there's something wrong with you.
Exactly.
We're going to have to get you off of that Xanax or whatever it is that's keeping you from being responsive and get you into the action business. And remember this, it's never acceptable to do nothing.
That's
we
right.
all have to do something.